Hi, this is Alyson from New Mexico. I wanted to give an example, a little lesson on compression for lead vocals in this track here. This is a student of mine named Gabrielle Jackson singing an original song, and I recorded it in Ableton Live. Because her voice is so nice, I use the compression really lightly in order to keep the tone of her voice really natural, but still bringing it up front to make it pop. So for this, I set a group of tracks here. It's kind of like using a bus in Ableton Live. You can actually group tracks. And here I have the group that's the leads. And on this group, this is where I put my plugins, where I put my compressor. And I started with a long attack so that there's a gradual compression of her natural transients, her vocal peaks, usually the consonants or the peaks, and so that they come through crisply, they don't get too squashed. So a long attack, I did 12.5 milliseconds. And then the release, I put a long release as well so that it would be gradual, so there wouldn't be any so it would ease off of the compressing in her vowels in the long parts too. So I wanted the voice not to have any harsh sound, just keep it really natural. For other musical styles, compression can be a real useful effect. It can add a dynamic to the sound. So if you have a lot of instruments, if you have louder music, so that the voice is really up front and present. But because there's so much space, I didn't worry, but I wanted to use just very tops of the compression, but not too much. So I set the threshold just a little bit below the top of the signal volume. So the vocals do crescendo more about 2/3 into the song where she goes into the bridge. And so you'll see more compression actually happening once that happens. Okay, it's just so little just on the tops right now. The ratio I set to 2:1, which means whenever there's 2 decibels volume that goes through, then the compression will make only 1 decibel of volume come out. So it's a really low ratio, but I did balance volumes throughout as well, so that you could actually, so that they were pretty much where I wanted them anyway, so I wasn't relying on compression to do this. See, this one I raised 2 dBs, and this one is just straight the way it was recorded. I set the knee on this one to be very gradual, meaning 3 dBs, meaning there was in 3 decibels that it would take to gradually make it go from the straight signal to the compressed signal. So you can see that right here. Instead of having a really sharp knee, it's got a gradual thing. Again, to try to keep the transition into compression to be soft, so that her voice really comes out. Then I turned off the makeup here because I wanted to have a manual output where I can set it myself, because the makeup is where the computer actually chooses to rearrange the output the way, I'm not quite sure how it chooses it, but I wanted to do it myself, and so I turned this off, and then I was able to set it to where through the entire performance it never goes into the red, but it basically gets very close up to here. So in the end, I really used very little compression, just enough to level off the top volumes. I feel like it brought the voice out front without squishing the vocal dynamics. And especially because I had done the evening out of some of the performance of her recording, I was able to just get enough to just take the tip off of it, but still have a very present recording. So thanks very much for listening and reviewing my tutorial, and happy mixing.